All right. So, as mentioned, we've had a few other webinars. The first one was an active shooter training that was developed by our MAC staff who've had military experience as well as martial arts background. So that is available for you to use and download and go over with your youth as well as with your staff. The one that we had last month was extreme couponing. So that was a life skill that I'm still trying to figure out. I've saved my coupons, and actually I think what happened was after I did the extreme couponing, they stopped sending me coupons. I don't know what happened. This month we have the esteemed pleasure. We are recording live from a secure location. We're at the judicial branch of our government. So we have in the room with me, we have Mrs. Pat Bonadonna. And I don't know, on this particular topic, which is parental custody and child support, in the battle of wits, I am severely unarmed with this topic. And so we have Ms. Pat Bonadonna, as well as we have right now Ms. Molly Casey from our Teen Parent Connection. And so I really want you, we're going to start with Ms. Pat we'll start with Ms. Molly just to tell us a little bit about what you do with Teen Parent Connection.
Okay, Teen Parent Connection is an initiative that provides services and support to pregnant and parenting teens, either young ladies or young men, that are either in foster care or at the risk of coming into foster care. We serve youth between the ages of 13 and up to 21, since we like to encourage our youth to stay in care. And the cornerstone of our training, of our initiative, is our Life Coach program. And our Life Coaches are professionals that deliver parenting education, life skills support. We have group classes, we have one-on-one support, and they meet with our young ladies or young men multiple times during the month to provide information that they need in terms of learning how to be the best parent that they can be. We do take young people when they're pregnant and guide them through the pregnancy process as well. And we also provide referrals, as Anthony mentioned, since there are a lot of issues about legal issues with custody, legitimation, and et cetera. We do provide referrals to support those efforts as well, so that we make sure that our young ladies and young men have the most up-to-date information that they can have relative to their legal rights, and in terms of being able to keep their babies, because that's our goal, is to keep the family intact. We want to make them as strong a family as they can possibly be. And we have a lot of different aspects. Of course, we work with them on developing an individualized service plan and customize whatever we do to the needs of the individual teen parent.
That is awesome, and I do believe that she missed out on so many other great things that they do, especially with making sure that the youth have a voice. They was very instrumental, and the young people were very instrumental into getting a policy put in place that stopped a practice that allowed for case managers or whoever to be able to take a child away from a kid that was in care without proving, make sure I'm saying this correct, without proving that they've been unfit.
Right. It's the way the policy reads now. It used to be that babies were almost automatically put into custody just by virtue of the fact that their mom was in custody, and there wasn't any evidence that the baby would be at a safety risk. That's really the key, is to make sure that the infant is not at a safety risk with the young mom. But that wasn't the case in the majority of the young ladies that we work with. So a number of years ago, Teen Parent Connection teamed up with EmpowerMEnt and worked together to change the defects policy so that now it is not supposed to be an automatic putting the infant into custody. The baby is only supposed to come into custody if there is a threat to their safety. Otherwise, they're to remain in the custody of their mother. We are seeing a little bit of backsliding on that, I think, just because it's been a number of years and we have a lot of turnover in staff. And so I think people aren't as aware of the policy, but I'm happy to send the policy out to anyone, as well as the case that was sort of the cornerstone that helped us get things put back on the right track in terms of our moms being able to keep custody of their own child.
Yes, and we'll definitely make sure that we add that to the follow-up email along with the recording. Next, we have to introduce ourselves, in this meeting. They are a great organization from boys to men. So we have the founder and co-founder who happen to be husband and wife, and they're pretty awesome people. If you don't know them, right now you can't see them. I'm right here looking at them, and they're almost matching, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So Clint and Tamesa, can you tell us a little bit about your organization and why was it started?
Okay. So Boys and Men Incorporated was incorporated in 2014, and the mission of Boys and Men Incorporated is to improve social outcomes for African American men and boys. At the time, in 2014, there was a lot of, turmoil and stuff going on at that time. So we decided we needed to do something. We needed to create an organization to sort of address these issues, especially here in Georgia in the South. Our initiative, one of our main initiatives that we work on, is called the Non-Custodial Parent Advocacy Initiative. And so we work with non-custodial parents. We have events in the community to try to figure out, how can we educate people on their rights as non-custodial parents. A lot of times we hear dads are having a lot of issues with, I can't see my kids, I don't know what to do, I'm trying to pay child support, it's hard, and there's a lot of, frustration and breakdown in mental health that happens behind this because dads really want to be involved, and the narrative says that, these dads, they're deadbeats, they're whatever, they don't really want to be involved, but we see the exact opposite of that, where these are dads who really want to do the right thing, but are just kind of being swapped to the side. And so we was like, hey, we need to advocate for these guys. This is an injustice, so we need to do something about it. And so that's what we do. That's what we try to do.
Yeah. And that's Mr. Clinton.
And one of the passions behind it, of course, was I'm a non-custodial father, and I personally experienced some of the barriers that I experienced dealing with the child support system, as well as just dealing with the custodial mother and some of the rights that I came to realize that she had that I had no knowledge of. And we came to realize that a lot of the dads experience the same problem. A lot of the guys are uneducated about their rights as non-custodial fathers. And what we're trying to do is just trying to also educate and at the same time advocate for them.
I like it. Me not being a father, I don't know, but I've seen how males can be at a disadvantage when it comes to wanting to be in their kids' lives, especially when it comes to the legal system and things like that. And with that being said, we get to the guru of the day, Miss Pat Bonadonna. You may have seen her in such webinars as our Here Am I Right? And she helps out with our Empowerment Courts team to make sure that what we're saying is accurate and correct while we're adding our personal stories and personal touches to them. But phenomenal lady, kind of like a mentor to me, and we.
Thank you, Anthony. That was a very nice introduction.
And she's a singer, too. But
yeah, I'm not going to do that here. So my name's Pat Bonadonna. I am a child welfare law specialist. I work currently, I am the staff attorney for the Georgia Commission on Child Support, and I also work with children, families, and the courts division for the Judicial Council's Administrative Office of the Court. And that's how I came to work with EmpowerMEnt. So I prepared a PowerPoint, which I believe you can see on the screen, and I want to work through that because I need to make sure that here in Georgia people understand our law is different than it is in many other states. And in Georgia, if you're a man and you have a baby but you're not married to the mother, the question is, what rights do you have as a parent? And the answer is absolutely none. And so we wanted to make sure that we were very clear about this, and we really need to get people educated about this because most men do not realize that this is the way the law is in Georgia. Only the mother has parental rights to the baby, even if the father signs the birth certificate and even if the father is paying child support. And if you're paying child support, have you had a DNA test to prove that you're actually the father? Because if you're not, then the agency will not, in Georgia, require you to pay child support.
All right, so you mean to tell me so that there are, for instance, if I was to be actively involved in making a baby, and I'm not married,
right?
So that and I sign a child support. I'm there, and I cut the umbilical cord.
No.
Yes, umbilical cord.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I cut the cord. I cut the cord. I'm holding the baby and everything. Months later, me and the young lady, we get into it, and we can't be together. At that point in time, that child, like, I guess legally, since I did not fill out the proper paperwork, that means that I'm not the father.
You can't do it by filling out paperwork anymore.
Okay.
Right now, the law is that you must file a legal action to obtain your parental rights. But let's talk first, if you don't mind, about paternity versus legitimation.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in chat. I'm looking at them as the webinar goes on.
So paternity establishes the biological condition of being a father, but does not establish your legal relationship to the child. So it also establishes your responsibility to financially support your child and to provide medical coverage for your child. So legally, it gives you your obligations but not your rights. And child support is not for the mother. A lot of times there's a lot of resentment about paying child support. Why should I give her money? But the right to support belongs to your child. And that means that the mother cannot waive child support. She can't say, you don't have to pay me anything. Legally, she has all the parental rights, but she can't waive the child support. And it's the law in Georgia that each parent must contribute to the financial support for their child. So even if the child is with, for example, a grandparent or even in foster care, both parents have a legal obligation to pay child support. Now, you can establish, will you go to the next slide, please? You can establish paternity at the hospital by signing a form that they'll hand you. Yay, we're all excited, we just had a baby, sign these forms. And so they will hand you a form, and included in that is an acknowledgement of paternity form, which you can sign. And you can also, the hospital will then send that to the Division of Vital Records so that there will be a record of it. And you can file an action in court to establish paternity. If the mother signs up for child support with the Division of Child Support Services, they now require paternity testing if the couple is not married. So the Division of Child Support Services will establish paternity and get a court order.
So just making sure the forms that they fill out at the hospital, that's not what they need to focus on, the ones they need to bring to the court, correct?
Right. The forms that they sign at the hospital say, I'm the biological father of this child, and that gives you the obligation to support your child and to provide health insurance. But that's the only thing it does.
Okay.
And there used to be, on that same form, the ability to legitimate your child, which is what it takes to establish that legal relationship. But less than 3% of the fathers who signed the paternity form signed the legitimation form, and then once they signed it, they couldn't remember what they signed. You had a very hard time getting a copy of it, and so that law was actually repealed last year, and I know that there are agencies within the state that are looking for better language and a better way for legitimation to be easier than having to file a court case. But as of right now, in order to legitimate your child and establish your legal rights to your child, you have to file a legal action. You can file that action in superior court, and on a limited basis, you can file it in the juvenile court if there is a dependency action pending, and that's the only time. Once you've established the legal relationship, then rights of inheritance pass to the child and back to the father. You can give the child your last name, and most importantly, then you can petition the court for custody and visitation. And so if you legitimate, another important thing is that your name is entered in what's called the Putative Fathers Registry in Georgia. And so if for any reason the mother gives the child up for adoption or her rights are going to be terminated, you will receive notice. So it's very important to get your name on that Putative Fathers Registry.
So we have a comment. Somebody said that it seems like paternity means less responsibility and legitimation means more responsibility. Would you say that?
No, not necessarily, because you still have the obligation to support your child and provide medical insurance with paternity. Legitimation gives you the opportunity and the right to have a relationship with your child, which is not more work, at least not usually.
It's joyful work.
It's a joyful work, exactly. And I can, probably who asked that question doesn't have children. But if you haven't done anything for the child and you wait too long to file a petition to legitimate that child, then the court may find that you've waived your, in legalese it's called your opportunity interest. Mm-hmm. You've waived your right to file the legitimation for that child. Mm-hmm. So, if you have a child and you're not married to the mother, then don't waste time. Get the legitimation done as soon as you can.
Is there like a time limit for that to be done?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No.
There's no time limit?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But the longer the time goes, I just went through this, so the longer the time goes, the more likely it could be that the judge will, or that it will be considered what you call it, the opportunity has closed.
They've waived their opportunity interest, which means the judge is not going to grant legitimation.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
So you could actually lose that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Now, there have been cases, of course, where the mother didn't tell the father about the baby, and then when the father finds out, he runs to court and files legitimation, and he can prove that he had no knowledge of the child, then the court will go ahead and grant it. But, if you know about the child, you wait till the child's 5 or 6 years old, chances are you may not be allowed to legitimate, which means you may not be able to ask the court for visitation rights or custody.
Wow. So 5 or 6 years is the
reasonable
time.
That's just an example.
Yeah.
In the life of an infant, they may find that a year is too long because the infant creates.
And is there not some impact on the father's involvement with the child?
Yeah.
The court will the court will definitely look at whether or not the father has ever lived with the child, has had a relationship with the child, whether the father's family might have a relationship with the child, and whether the father has supported the child. Is a very important point in that. So we know children need both parents, and if the father's not involved in the child's life, then the child most likely will grow up in poverty, will face delinquency charges at some point, will not do well in school. They have lower intellectual development and sometimes even behavioral disorders. Mm-hmm. Kids need their dads. Mm-hmm. And so, how to legitimate your child? Again, you can file a petition with the court, and it used to be that you would have to do 2 legal actions. You would file for legitimation, and the court would grant that, and then you filed another petition, which gets very expensive, for visitation or custody. Now the court will do what's called a bifurcated hearing, so that you can file it all together, and the court will first decide the legitimation question, and then if it's granted, in your petition you've already asked for, say, visitation. And the court can consider that as soon as the legitimation is granted. Okay?
So real, a question, since we're going to have a lot of young people listen to this, and because I don't know what it is, what is bifurcate?
Break the trial into two pieces,
okay.
or break the hearing into two pieces. I'm sorry about that.
That's fine.
So they'll do the question of the legitimation first, and then in the second half they'll do the part about visitation or custody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pat, what's the cost of filing?
Right now, the cost to file an action in Superior Court is about $205, and then you have to serve notice on the other parent, so you're paying the sheriff $50 to do that. However, if you cannot afford to pay the filing fees, and you can show that to the court by filing a financial affidavit, the court will issue an order of poverty and allow you to file without paying the filing fees.
Yeah, and I think we actually we have our program called Youth Support, and one of our youth supporters took one of their mentees to go get that done, and because he was young and didn't care, I think they waived that fee for him.
So, and have I sent you forms for that? I think I did it for the adult adoption.
The adult adoption, but not.
But the same affidavit of poverty would still apply in any civil case.
Oh, okay.
So, EmpowerMEnt has the paupers. It's called a pauper's affidavit or an affidavit of poverty, and EmpowerMEnt has that.
Okay.
Okay. So let's think about how much it costs to raise a child.
Listen, I watched my niece for like a week, and that almost bankrupted me. Like
How old is she?
She's just becoming like into her teenage years. So I was like, yeah, that was kind of like my birth control for me.
That's when it gets really expensive. But it's also expensive to have a baby because you have to pay for diapers and wipes and formula, maybe, if the mother's not nursing. You've got to have a crib, a suitable place for the child. Cribs don't come with mattresses. I found that out when I had grandchildren. You got to buy sheets. You're required to have a car seat. Not to mention all the clothes and blankets and everything else that you need, baby bottles, toys, and daycare. If mom works, daycare is so expensive. I think we figured out it came to, for one of our child support worksheets that we did in a training, that mom was paying $125 a week, which is pretty regular for infant care, at a daycare center. That came out to $1,625 a month.
The latest information that I just received from DeCal is that it costs more, and of course this is with a young family, it costs more to have a young child in care than it does to put an older child through college.
Yes.
I can believe that.
And you're at your lowest earning, of course, when you have a little one.
Right.
And of course, if you're going to college like I did, I helped pay for it myself because I could work, but that's not an option for parents with young children.
Right, right. And so there's a lot to consider about having a child. So let's start talking about child support. And the questions, of course, are, do I have to pay? You bet you do. Everybody has an obligation to support their child. And a lot of times I hear, well, mom is spending money on this and that and the other thing, and I'm paying child support, and I don't want her using my money to be going out at night or whatever. But mom is keeping a roof over that child's head, providing food, electricity, heat. So the mother is doing her part by supporting that child, by providing a home, et cetera. And so, she needs some help with that. If you're not sure you're the father, then you simply ask for a paternity test. If it's a private case and she's suing you for paternity, then you just ask the court to order a paternity test. And they used to be about $600 for all three people. But now, if you go through the Division of Child Support Services here in Georgia, the whole family can get tested for $89.
Wow,
and if you're not the father, you don't have to pay that.
Yeah.
So if you're the father, you do. If I'm in college, do I still have to pay? Yes, you do. And the judge will say, you might be close to getting your degree, but you made a child. And now you have that responsibility. And if you can't go to college and work, then you have to work.
Wow.
So judges are not sympathetic to, your circumstances. And I've certainly heard plenty of judges tell people to go get a second job if they can't afford their child support. So how is child support calculated? I'm going to tell you, you can go to csc.georgiacourts.gov and click the online child support calculator button. And you'll set up an account there just like you do with any other website. And you can start a child support worksheet. Again, if you sign up for services with the Division of Child Support Services, and either the mother or the father can sign up for services with the Division of Child Support Services. If the mother signs up for any kind of TANF or other benefits, then the Division of Child Support Services is going to sign them up for child support because that money goes to repay what they're paying.
And so I've also heard that that in order for the mother to be able to receive extra services, they have to list a father on the certificate or some of the forms. Is that true?
They do have to list the name of the father if it's known, and they also there are circumstances such as if there's domestic violence involved where they do not. Okay. If you go to the next slide, please.
Not this one?
Yeah, that one. Oh, that one's going through.
Yeah, this one's lagging.
Okay. So if you look at this next screen, this will show you Schedule A of the child support worksheet, and it talks about income. Bodied, but you're not working or showing any reliable evidence of income, then what the court is going to do is it's going to what's called impute income to you. So they're going to take a number and plug it in there as your income. What the law requires is if there's no reliable evidence of income, they're going to take minimum wage and multiply it by 40 hours a week, and that's what it comes out to. And that comes out to $1,261.50 a month.
Wow.
How is able-bodied defined? What did you like?
If you're not on Social Security disability, you're able-bodied.
Okay, if you're not, that's the only thing. Okay.
And if you are on disability, disability counts as income for purposes of calculating child support. Yeah. So if this is done, so say that here I showed that the mother's income was imputed, but if it was imputed to the father and that resulted in him getting a pretty low child support order, the mother has 90 days to come back to court and file a motion and say, I have evidence of his income and it's way more than that. So there are things built into the law to protect the parents from unrealistic orders, so that if it's too low or if it's too high, there are things that you can ask the court for assistance. If you have another child for whom you are paying support and your first child support order in that case is newer than the child support order in this case, then you can get credit for paying that child support order. You have to be able to prove you're actually paying it. And what it does, if you're paying $175 a month, it takes $175 off your income that's used to calculate support.
All right, I think I understand that.
So you're actually, if this is your second child, and you're paying that $175 a month for the first child, you're actually going to pay slightly less for the second child because you've gotten credit for what you're paying for your first child.
Okay. Interesting. And apparently this is Mickey, Minnie, and Jerry Mouse.
Yes, this is Mickey, Minnie, and Jerry Mouse. On the next slide, and if you need training on how to prepare a child support worksheet, then I suggest you contact us. And I think that my email address was on my first slide. Let me check.
It's on the first slide.
Okay, so you can contact me and request a training, and we will try to establish something, because that is a separate training that takes a few hours, and I don't want to spend all that time doing that. So I'm just giving you a very broad overview of the child support worksheet here. But health insurance and work-related child care are the two expenses that are considered in the child support calculation. So if the mother's working and she's paying child care, then what happens is Georgia takes both parents' income and divides it and says, Dad's making 60%, Mom's making 40%. And that's how all of the expenses are then allocated. So Dad would be paying 60% of the daycare, and Mom would be paying 40%, and that's how it's worked out on the child support worksheet. So in this case, Dad is paying $100 a month for health insurance for the child, and only the child's health insurance counts. And the mom is paying $125 a week, which, as I said, is $6,250 a year, which is an enormous amount of money. It's almost as much as a mortgage payment. And so that just shows on this screen how it works on the child support worksheet. And then if you go to the next slide, unfortunately this is quite small, but you can see how everything is allocated. So in this case, Mickey is earning 55%, and Minnie's earning approximately 45%, and then all of the expenses for child care and health care get added in, divided, and then what you're actually paying out of pocket comes out so that it's evenly distributed. And so you can see that Mickey is paying I can't hardly see this, 171, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
$171.55
Yes.
in child support.
Wow. So just for those of you who are on the line, if you really want to scare your kid from not doing these activities, take them through, get their budget, get their allowance, whatever they're earning right now, and go to the website cscgeorgiacourts.gov and have them calculate what they're earning right now and see how much they would be spending in child support.
It's
csc.georgia,
spelled out,
yes.
courts with an S, .gov, G-O-V.
This is scary. I'm calculating in my head, like, if I have a child, like, oh gosh, I wouldn't have money for my games.
Well, it's already got that right there.
Yeah, really. You don't have time.
It's a great sacrifice.
So if you don't pay, what can happen? Well, a number of things can happen. First thing that's going to happen is that your driver's license is going to get suspended. And then, of course, what happens if you get caught driving on a suspended license?
You get arrested.
You get arrested and pay big fines. Professional licenses may also be suspended. Your passport can be revoked. And I found out that they even suspend hunting and fishing licenses.
Really? Oh. Isn't that like a catch-22? Like, you want them to pay child support, but in order for them to get the money to pay child support, they have to drive to work, and if they don't have a license, then they can't drive to work.
Yeah.
So
well, now, I will tell you, there are two sides to this.
Yeah.
First of all, if you don't pay, of course, and there's a picture of a jail cell there, you can also be incarcerated for disobeying a court order. Mm-hmm. It is not a criminal action, it's a civil action, but you go to jail nonetheless.
What's the difference for
through my years of experience in family law, I have learned that amazingly, when people go to jail, all of a sudden money appears if they really want to get out. But there, of course, are some circumstances where people have lost jobs, and really around 2007, 2008, when the market fell out, judges really changed the way they were looking at these cases. And so did the Division of Child Support Services. And so there are programs that are sponsored by the Division of Child Support Services. One, if you're already incarcerated or you're about to be incarcerated, is the Parental Accountability Court. Because very often if you're chronically unable to pay or unwilling to pay child support, there's an underlying problem. And that might be some kind of abuse, addiction. It might be a lack of education, or you don't have a GED or a high school diploma. It might be an inability to prepare a resume. It could be any number of things, and they will work with you. The court coordinator works with you, and you have frequent hearings, frequent calls with the coordinator, and they have a group of community providers who will provide the services you need to help you become employed and able to pay your child support. And once the child support is paid, amazingly, you can, a lot of times at that point, the custodial parent will say, you can visit with the children. It helps the whole family. Some of the judges in this program have got attorneys who will volunteer to do legitimations and visitation petitions as a reward for doing well in the program. So some of the judges have found a way to make that happen. Others are still looking for a way to make that happen. But it's definitely a big step. The other program that DCSS has available, you don't have to be in jail or you don't have to be behind, and they offer services called the Fatherhood Program, and they offer driver's license reinstatement. They offer services in establishing or modifying child support, GED enrollment and classes, job training, job search and placement, volunteer work activities so that you can get some experience. So they have a lot of services that they offer. It's also a very, very good program.
This first I heard of a program for males. Like this
program has been in existence for a long time.
People are not very aware of it.
10 or 12, at least 10 or 12 years, maybe even more than that. The Parental Accountability Courts are pretty new. I think the first one was established around 2010 or 11. And they will have one of those courts in every circuit in Georgia by the end of 2018. We're working on that right now. And we work with them to some extent, and we go to all their kickoffs and all their graduations and get pictures and put them on Facebook. So the last slide, of course, is just who suffers without daddy, and it's the children. You're suffering because you don't have your child, but your child needs you so much and needs your love and your support. And so it's just very, very important to be involved in your child's life, stay involved in your child's life. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't know. Go ahead.
No, you can go first. I've talked to Pat a lot of times. A lot of questions. She answered 1,000 times.
What were some of those?
One of my questions would be, for instance, with the programming that the courts provide, like Problem Solving Court and the Fatherhood Program. But apart from those programs, usually like they are trying to get a job or figure out the reason why you don't have a job. But there's the problem that a lot of our fathers experience is the fact that they are employed, but they're underemployed. And they do pay child support, and they're not eligible for the fatherhood program because they do have a job. But yet these type of situations are putting serious strains on their lives. Still,
right.
And I do know the code where it's, like you said, minimum wage, 40 hours. But some people, if you have a prior case or other thing, it still changes their lives.
Right.
So what's there for them?
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple things that are there for them, actually. The first thing that you should know about, and a lot of people don't know about, it's called the low-income deviation, and the word in the code, the phrase in the code is this creates an extreme financial hardship on the non-custodial parent. If that is the case, you can ask the judge for low-income deviation, and it can reduce the amount of your child support. Now, the minimum amount allowed in Georgia is $100 for the first child and $50 for any subsequent child. So if you had 2 kids, it'd be $150. But then there are other deviations on Schedule E of the child support worksheet that you can also take to even reduce that amount some, though judges are reluctant to go that low. Up until 2 years ago, that low-income deviation, only the non-custodial parent could ask for it. But if they didn't know about it, they couldn't ask for it. So the law was changed a couple of years ago, and so now even the agency can suggest it. DCSS can suggest it. The judge can just say, I'm going to give it to you without anybody asking for it. So that's always something to be considered. It's out there. People just don't know about it. I'm sorry? Go ahead.
Where are these documents available? So the legitimation petition, the pauper's affidavit, the low-income deviation. Are they in PDF on the internet, or
no?
Do you have to go to the court to get them, or an attorney has to pick them up? Or?
Well, they don't get picked up. You have to write them.
So the attorney has to find them and fill them out, and then.
Well, we don't even. An attorney can go to a law library, or you could go to a law library and look at a book called Brown's Forms, and you can find almost anything you want in Brown's Forms. Okay. Any legal form you need for Georgia, it will be there, but you also have to understand the procedure that goes along with filing a petition in court and those kind of things. But I think that, I know Anthony has the affidavit of poverty on his computer.
I should be able to find it. If I can't find it, then I'll harass you for it.
Okay. As far as legitimation forms, it's not a difficult petition to write. So if you can find it on Brown's Forms, then use that as a template and just create it yourself. And, the mother has to either agree or you're going to have a hearing on it. Yeah. So, but I can't imagine why the mother, unless you're abusive or something, the mother's not going to fight it.
So I hear, and I've seen some of the stories where everything was going fine, and then something happened, and then maybe the father started dating again.
That's when it always happens.
the father starts dating again, and then things come up like, now you can't see your child, or now this was never your child in the first place, or whatever. So in either case, would they be able to, if the child was not his, would he be able to get any money back? Or
good luck with that.
No, I'm asking. I don't know.
That's not very fun.
It's gone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if child support is overpaid, it's very, very hard to get back. It is the responsibility of the custodial parent to repay that, but you'll never get it. They don't have enough money to pay you back. They need that. They're living hand to mouth most of the time.
And so what, all right, so, and then the opposite of that, if the child is his, but now she said, you can't see him because I don't want my baby around your new person, or however those words may be exchanged. What can he do?
He needs to legitimate and file for visitation.
But if he's already done that, because I've seen a few people where they've been adamant. Actually, I had a friend that actually put himself on child support just so that he could be in the child's life, and then all of a sudden there's like, oh no, you can't see her, or they'll just go missing for months on end.
Did he have a visitation order?
Yes.
Then you have to file a motion for contempt for not allowing the visitation. It's interference with the parental relationship, and you need to get that in front of a judge. And I have heard of a case, and I can't tell you what the case is off the top of my head, but someone who was denying visitation to a father lost custody of her children for doing that.
Mm.
So the judge gave custody to the father because the mother was repeatedly denying visitation to the father.
And we have a question from the audience. How can we make fathers more aware of these programs?
That's a good question, because I've been training around the state for years about this, and spread the word. Share this presentation. I understand it'll be available after the fact.
Yes.
Please share this presentation far and wide. We would love to have the young men in our state become more educated about their rights or their lack thereof, and about what it means to be a dad.
You can also reach out to From Boys to Men Incorporated, www.fromboystomen.org, or you can give us a call.
Spell that out because it's spelled.
Oh, yeah, it's spelled. The spelling is different. We'll put it somewhere.
You go ahead and say it. I'll type it in.
It's www.fromboys2men.org. And we can give you information on, legitimation, things that you need to do in the court. We actually, the legitimation form for Fulton County is actually on the Fulton County website. We can go through it with you, different things like that. So we have a lot of opportunities for that.
And you have an active Facebook page.
We have a very active Facebook page. We're very active on social media. This is one of the reasons why we even started this initiative, because we knew that people don't really know that they don't have any rights. They don't know really what's going on. So we definitely want to be a resource to you guys if you need that.
So From Boys to Men is going to do the training station.
We will.
Hopefully we'll get that grant.
Because we had a great event where Pat actually came out and we had dads there and they were able to exchange what they had been going through with people like Pat and people from the state office. And so we want to do many, many more of those. But we just got to get the people out. So if you contact us, we'll definitely have something for you.
And I think Ms. Molly had something.
Well, we had a situation about 2 years ago that we resolved with DFACS and the Office of Child Support, but there's no policy in place, and I'm very concerned if the parent in custody is working with us, we're aware of it and we can address it, but there are a lot of moms throughout the state that are not working with us.
Yes.
So we had two of our mothers who have had physical custody of their children since birth. They were in foster care. The mom was in foster care. The child was in foster care. And when the moms, both our moms finished school and they got jobs, and suddenly they were being done for child support, which was going to DFACS. So they didn't know why that was going on because, of course, they were with their own child, and I understand that DFACS was the legal custodian of the child, but the way we were able to resolve it was, well, first of all, our young ladies were very outspoken about it, and they actually brought it up to Director Cagle's attention, but we also met with representatives from DFACS and from the Office of Child Support. The request to charge them with child support came from their case managers. That's who had to file it. So we were able to get, one of our young ladies lost her entire tax refund to paying back child support because what they did was calculate the child support from the date of birth of the child, so they were both in arrears, and then they were paying the monthly child support as well. So we were able to get that situation rectified. It was stopped, and they actually got their money back.
Did they? That's amazing.
We did a lot of training with these two young ladies, and they made a beautiful presentation. But so that was a good ending for those two young moms, but we don't want that to happen to other young moms. So, of course, we have frequently offered the services of having our youth engaged in policy work and developing a policy around that so we can ensure that it doesn't happen to other moms around the state. But we haven't made much progress in that. So if we can find a way to be engaged in that process so that we could look at having a policy in place so that these young moms, these were two young women who were doing all of the right things.
Right.
They had been great moms to their babies. They did not have legal custody because it was taken away from them when their children were born. Even though we had the policy in place, it wasn't known to whoever was filing papers, and they lost custody of their children. But we don't want them penalized. Here they were trying to be self-sufficient,
Mhm.
and they were paying child support on their own child that they had custody of, or physical custody. So what we're looking for is an avenue to help develop policy for that.
Can you send me an email about all of that? Because I do talk to the leadership over there frequently.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
And so, if some of our adult supporters are I think we had a few young people that actually signed on. If they wanted to be involved with Teen Parent Connection or what have you, how did they go about doing that?
Teen Parent Connection, they can contact me directly by email. That's MCASEY at MAC, MAAC, the numeral 4, KIDS.org, and I will, if they're eligible for our program, which is pretty broad eligibility, I'll send a referral form. We take referral forms from anyone, including the young people themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We serve Metro Atlanta and the Macon area at this point. That's where our funding allows us to serve. But I do try to find resources for people if they're outside of our area.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've ever heard of anybody getting denied, but have there, and what is that rare, like, blue moon occurrence?
Well, unfortunately, we cannot serve every teen in the state. Mm-hmm. So our eligibility is that either the mother or the child or the father or the child needs to be in custody or at risk of coming into custody. And we actually broadened that at risk because it enabled us to bring in more young people into the program. But we have teens just in the general public. I'll have the mom of a teen call and say, gee, my child is pregnant, or my son's girlfriend is about to be pregnant and they need some help, mm-hmm. in which case we don't have the funding for somebody that's just in the community at large, but in those mm-hmm. cases, that's when I will provide as many resources as I have, but I'll be very honest, there aren't a ton of resources out there for teen parents.
Not for teens.
Right.
And there are certainly not a lot of resources out there for young adults who have babies and maybe had a baby as a teen and they're out in the world. We keep our parents as long as we can possibly keep them. The average length in our program is about 13 months, which is very good. Mm-hmm. But we have had kids in our program as long as 4 years, and mm-hmm. of course some come and go quickly. But if we can't have them in our program, I'll do whatever I can. And anybody is welcome to come to our group classes. We have those on a monthly basis, and all that means is if I have extra kids there, it's an extra pizza. So that's not a funding cost. So happy to do that.
Okay. That's awesome. And just to wrap up, can you please let them know about the bill that For Boys to Men is trying to get pushed?
Okay, so For Boys to Men Incorporated, we know a lot about child support, but we find that child support really isn't an issue. A lot of that we work with, they pay their child support, they do everything they're supposed to do. Their issue comes when, like, oh my gosh, I'm paying all this money, but I never get to see my child. I don't have any rights? What is this? This is crazy. So our bill is mostly focused on legitimation and how can we have an easier way of dads who pay their child support, who are involved in their child's life, to get to be legitimated. And we're not saying this in a quid pro quo saying like, well, I pay my child support, so I'm paying to be able to see my child. No, we don't want that. But we do feel like dads so the purpose of legitimation is to kind of like what Pat was saying, was like you give evidence saying that I've been in my child's life, I've paid child support, and this is what you present to the judge. So that type of evidence is important. So we're saying if you can present that, and if you've been doing that anyway, then there should be an easier path for you rather than going to Superior Court, filing a petition, retaining an attorney and all that. So that's what our bill is really trying to do. We're trying to say, can we bring evidence saying we've paid child support, we've been involved, and get legitimated in an easier way rather than having to go this full-on court route. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it easier for good dads to have rights, because we know that one of the main things is I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not a deadbeat, mm-hmm. but I still don't have any rights, and it's not fair. And the biggest thing for us is parental equality. We need dads to be in the kids' lives, to have rights, to feel like they're a parent, because parental alienation is a really big issue. And so that's what we hope to do in the 2017 session, and we're ready to do it. We hope we can get some support.
All right. So in 2017, we need for all of our current voters and our future voters to start bombarding their representatives about the bill. Right. Well, they say that every time you learn something, you get a new wrinkle, and I think mine has a lot of wrinkles today.
Well, no wonder. I'm just thinking of it.
You get a new wrinkle. No, you get a new brain. On your brain. On your brain.
Your brain gets a new fold when you learn something new.
All right. So, as always, thank everyone for joining in. We're gonna make this available. You should have it by next week. The recording, as well as I'm gonna attach the PowerPoint for you to be able to go over with your young people, as well as for any of your family members that just may need this information. Thank you for joining us another EmpowerMEnt/IOP webinar, and look forward for the next month. Hopefully that one will be on credit reporting, so we should have some fun with that. Thank you all. Have a great day.